everybody, welcome back to another movie review. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. And of course, for the film of the week, we touched on Inside Out and gave my thoughts about the original film. So now, of course, as I was alluding to with that original review, we're now here to talk about the follow-up, which is, of course, Inside Out 2. Which was directed by Kelsey Mann this time, who was in his directorial debut. Pete Docter, I think, having a helm on this, or having some help here and there. I think I saw he was like an executive producer. I don't know if he was part of the writing process or whatever, but Inside Out 2 follows up from the original. Now Riley is 13, and she's going through a lot of changes, specifically that of puberty. So lots of things are happening afoot, new emotions come into play, specifically that of anxiety, and which is voiced by Maya Hawke. And anxiety starts to take over. Anxiety starts to completely change Riley inside and out. And well, there you go. And the primary emotions, that of joy, sadness, anger, all of that, they become, as the film says, suppressed emotions. And these emotions now have to find a way to get back to Riley before anxiety changes her for the worst. So essentially that is what is afoot here. And my thoughts on the original film, if you guys saw that review, is that I found the film to be good, but not necessarily great, because what you get in Inside Out is a quite literal visual concept that, while it is interesting and entertaining, it is ultimately one-dimensional in its portrait. And it's like, the way to best describe it is that it's great for a specific demo in that it's great for children. You know, I would love to show Inside Out to, you know, if I ever were to have kids, probably not, but if I ever were to have kids, I would definitely show them a film like Inside Out, because it's very, very informative and very educational. And for adults, though, it's fair, because you understand quite blatantly what's going on. And the journey itself, while ultimately, like I said, entertaining and interesting and at times tender, it's not as dimensional of a portrait as you come to think. Compared to a child, though, it is very, very deep. So it very much is about the demo of which it's targeting and where it ultimately benefits the most. For adults, it's just not so much. And with Inside Out 2, what you get is basically the same thing, except what you get this time is anxiety. So essentially what you get is quite literally the same story. There are emotions that get thrown out of the headquarters. They have to journey back. They learn to value each other, and ultimately they learn to feel all emotions. Learning, again, the whole thematic concept this time around, with the addition of anxiety, is the complexity of getting back to said place, back to headquarters. How anxiety can make things extremely complicated, and it can form bad judgments, impairments. You know, it's essentially just making the journey a little bit more difficult, but practically, literally, the journey is the same. The thematic quality is also the same, which is to learn to value all your emotions and to let yourself feel in all ways, you know, rather than specifically just one at a time. It's okay to feel multiple things at once, hence complex emotions, you know, so. And all that stuff was addressed in the first film. The only difference here is with just anxiety. And I wish that, like the difference this time around is that it is the sequel. And when you come into part 2, you expect a new wrinkle, you expect something else to be presented, when it's just literally the same thing, except now there's an additional element at play. It feels not as purposeful compared to the original film. Quality-wise, they're basically one of the same. I mean, I found similar strengths and similar weaknesses. Again, the visual concept is quite literal, and I just don't find myself as engaged in that front because of just how blatant things are. Some things this time around, their choices in presenting the world outside of the headquarters, some of it's interesting, some of it's a little bit silly, and I get it. I get what they're representing, but it's just still, it's like, okay, whatever. And I think that the one thing that this film lacks is that with the concept of anxiety, there is, and I don't think it's intentional, I think it just more or less has to do with the filmmaking, is that there's more of a more of a, how should I say it, like, the pacing of the film is not as smooth or as, just breezy as the original one was. With this one, there is just more of a, just like this, and it doesn't correlate to that of anxiety. Some people may say that to excuse it, but I don't think that that's the case here. I just think that the filmmaking itself is just lacking in the regarding of pace. So, but generally speaking, it's the same movie. I mean, it's basically the same film, except now all the primary emotions are out of the headquarters, and all of them need to get back, and then everybody learns the value of each other at the end. I mean, it's essentially the same story, and what you get from it is a film that is ultimately just fine. It's fine, except that there are more weaknesses this time around compared to the original film because of the sheer fact of it being a sequel. You expect something different. You expect a new angle, a new wrinkle to be discovered. And what essentially it is, there are some elements at play that are interesting. This idea of beliefs and where beliefs come from, secrets. There are new little things here and there, little details that they bring about that are interesting. But what it does for the story isn't giving it more merit or giving it more distinction. It's giving it just padding, just more details to surround the film, but not much to the story itself, because what's written, what is being told and presented to us is quite literally the same from the very first film, except that it's more of an expansion. There's more emotions at play, and thus there's complications. So that's essentially the difference, is that of just the elements at play. But those elements don't create distinctions. What they do is just pad the film out, disguise it as if there is more merit, when really, when you look at the story that is presented, it's just literally the same. It's the same sort of beginning to the same end. The journey itself, the ultimate messaging of the film, is also literally the same. It is literally the same concept. It's about how one gets to feeling everything, the value of feeling everything, allowing yourself to feel all emotions, valuing all your emotions, not suppressing them. It's literally the same. So I can't say that the film is bad because I enjoyed Inside Out. I don't love it, but I enjoy it. So I sit here and say that I ultimately like Inside Out too, but not as much compared to the original film because this is number 2. So when you show me literally the same thing again, or practically almost literally the same thing again, it's diminished. But there are things there that still engage me and still interest me. Like I said, I like the world. Even though it kind of whips through the world building compared to the original film, there's some interesting details there. Like I said, this concept about beliefs, the strings and all that, that's interesting. But, it just doesn't really provide much more rather than just similarity. It's just screaming at you basically that the film is not going to go anywhere more different. It's just, here are additional elements. Aren't they interesting, basically? Just new things to look at, but not new things in crafting new stories. So ultimately it's fine. It's fine. It's not anything notable. It's not anything more. It's just pretty much the same, except in the first film, you don't have anxiety. In this film, you do have anxiety, and other elements including embarrassment, envy. So, you get Inside Out 1, and then you get Inside Out 1.1. New things, sure, but it's basically it's basically the same thing as you saw previously. So, for better and for worse. you know, because it carries that general quality. But this is number 2. You expect more, not just the same. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Inside Out 2. I like it, but I expected more. And perhaps that's just it's number 2, you know, so I mean, it's kind of the sequel syndrome. I mean, it is literally just more of the original, but I wanted more than just the original, and the film doesn't really provide that, at least to me. So, but you guys, let me know your thoughts on Inside Out 2, your guys' thoughts on the original film as well. Curious how this will do at the box office. We'll see. I've seen the price tag. Apparently it's like a $200 million film, so we'll see what happens. But you guys, let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.